Hello!
Hi.
We just wanted to do a quick little intro for this week's interview. We're super excited about it.
We're very excited. We were joined by Stu Krieger, who basically wrote our childhood.
Yeah, 10 of our favorite Disney Channel original movies, like Xenon, Smart House, Phantom of the Megaplex, The Poof Point, True Confessions.
Cowbells,
It
True
goes
Confessions.
on and on, as well as some of our favorite animated films, like The Land Before Time.
And A Troll in Central Park, which is one of my all-time favorites ever.
We're
so excited.
I was going to say, our childhood selves are freaking out, and also our adult selves.
Our 30-year-old selves.
30, yeah. So we hope you all loved this interview. We had so much fun talking with Stu. Atlas is very excited too. And here it is.
Enjoy.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Terrific. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Already just love your background.
Might be the best background we've ever seen.
We've ever seen.
It's the Stuseum.
The Stuseum.
I love that.
I'm David. This is Grace. We cannot thank you enough for doing this.
My pleasure.
So nice to meet you.
Where are we talking to you from?
This is my home office in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
Oh, great. Okay.
You're not from LA originally, though, right?
No, born and raised in Rochester, New York. And as I've said in many interviews, one of those freaks where when I was 12 years old, I said to my family, I'm going to LA to be a writer someday, and graduated from college and moved out.
And you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You did the thing.
Did you go to college to do like screenwriting or writing in general?
Yeah, I went to SUNY Brockport, and at the time that I was there, they didn't have a specific like film-centric program at all. So I was a communications major with a poli-sci minor, and then did a semester abroad in London where I got to study more creative writing and photography and all kinds of stuff. And then literally graduated in June, worked at an Arby's for the summer to earn enough money to drive across country with a buddy, and came to LA when I was 21 years old and been here ever since.
Oh,
Wow.
it had to have been so different. I mean, I've only lived in LA 10 years or so, but we actually just yesterday were at a function with some other families, and we were talking to someone who lived out here, was born and raised, and just saying how much LA changes because it's constantly adapting, and there's always like a flux of new people coming here.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, my wife of 44 years is a LA native, and she always gets annoyed when people say, wow, you're so rare. And she goes, well, who do you think I went to high school with?
That's so
I
true.
know, that's so true. There are people.
Yeah.
It probably gets annoying for her.
No, there were actually people here when I grew up.
Yeah.
It was not just her.
Yeah.
I just always think I don't know. I mean, obviously people did it, but moving here and not having GPSs available, I feel like LA would be so difficult to navigate without.
As I mentioned, I drove out with one buddy. We had a couple other friends that were coming out, and their plan was just to stay for the summer before they went back, and my buddy and I were going to stay. And this is what we literally had to do. We were driving across the country, and the only thing we knew was the corner of Hollywood and Vine from a Lucy show or something. So we said, we'll meet you at the corner of Hollywood and Vine at 10 o'clock on Halloween. And we did.
Hey,
You made it
worked.
there. You made it.
Yeah, but had they not shown up, that would have been the end of them.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that would have been.
Yeah, it's so
GPS,
different.
No cell phones.
Just hope they're okay.
That's so true.
Exactly.
You mentioned your wife. Now, you guys met working together, right? On a project?
Wow, good research. Yes, absolutely. As she always says, it was that classic motion picture, Satan's Cheerleaders, which I'm sure you all have in your video library.
Of course.
Every week we watch it.
I was a production assistant, and she was one of Satan's Cheerleaders.
What a role.
Yes.
So she was an actress.
Yeah. And worked pretty steadily until we had our first kid. And then she was like, you know what? I'm good. It was fun. And she kind of got caught in that. She still looked like a kid, but she was too old to play a teenager and too young to play a young mom.
Oh.
You know what? I'm good. She did it for
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
She was one of the kids in Arnold's on Happy Days. She was a regular there.
Oh, cool.
A bunch of guest spots and a couple other films, and then was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, she had the experience, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she met
that's
you out of
awesome.
it. So really,
Yeah.
that's the best win.
Well, and it's funny because she will say that was ultimately my plan, is I wanted to meet a nice writer that worked at home and was a good husband, and I found it, so I'm good.
There you go.
Aw.
There you go.
Yeah, it's probably really exciting. Like, do you have times when you go on the set as a writer and get to kind of see it put on its feet?
Yes, and one of the things that I always said, because I just a week ago Thursday retired from 19 years of teaching after my film career.
Oh,
Oh,
congratulations.
congrats.
Thank you. And one of the things that I always said to my students is all of the highs and lows of show business, there is never a better day than the first time you walk on a set and everything looks exactly like it was in your head. And so I talk about when I think my daughter was 9 or 10 years old and I got to take her to Smart House. And,
Oh, wow.
you sit in the office and you're like, type, 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 type by myself. And then
Uh-huh.
we walked on the soundstage and there was the Smart House and the screen
Wow.
and the thing, and the orange juice things flying and everything's happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, it's never not exciting to walk in and see the vision alive.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So normally, especially with my run at the Disney Channel, my MO was I was around for the table read, the first week of rehearsals, the first couple days of shooting, and then I take off because I am somebody who, as a writer on set, you're only in the way.
Mm.
It's always like, I'm home if you need anything, call me. And so there were times where I'd get a call like at 10 o'clock at night. We were supposed to shoot in the bowling alley tomorrow. That location fell out. We've got to move to a coffee shop. Can you rewrite the scene tonight to accommodate the new location? And I would, I mean, here's the dinosaur I am. It was like, write the scene, put it in the fax machine,
Oh,
Mhm.
and get it
Send
to
it
come to
over.
them on the other end.
yeah.
Yeah, so we did all that. And the other great thing with it, just like pressure under, working under pressure, when they were shooting the sequel to Xenon, I got a call and they were in New Zealand.
Mhm.
We're recording the song tomorrow for the end. It just came in from the songwriters. They don't get it. It's not working. We really don't like it. Do you think you could write a song for us tonight that we can shoot tomorrow?
No pressure.
A
Yeah.
song.
And I had never I mean, I didn't have to do the music, thank God, but I had never written the
Uh-huh.
lyrics to anything before. And I go, sure, I can do that. And like, bam, 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 bam. And again, shove it in the fax machine. It goes to New Zealand. They call and go, oh my God, we love this. We're recording it tonight. We're shooting it tomorrow.
Wow. Would they send you
Wow.
like music or instrumentals at all, or you just had to come up
No,
with it
they
all in your
actually,
head?
I did the lyrics and then they put the music to the lyrics.
Got it. Okay,
Mm.
so it all starts
Yeah.
with you.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, now we're learning how to write a song too.
I mean,
Exactly.
Disney Channel, especially like in their prime with the DComs, were like cranking them out like once a month, like
Yeah.
back to back. How long would you have to write a movie? Would you have to like get them done really fast?
I honestly think it's one of the reasons I stayed as steadily employed there as I did, because they knew if, hey, Stu, we need this a week from Friday, they would get it a week from Friday.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so most of the time, the very first one I did for them, because I had done a couple other Disney Channel movies before the DComs were a brand.
Hmm.
And so the very first one I did as a DCOM was Xenon. And once that kind of started through the rest of my tenure, I was usually working on more than one movie for them at a time because it would be things like they would say, you know, you're working on the sequel, but put that down because we got a draft of the Smart House script that we like the premise, but we're not happy kind of like with the emotional content of it. But this is locked in to be, the October movie.
Mhm.
And you do a draft to get it back to us. And so I would do that and then go back to the sequel. And then, like with Phantom of the Megaplex, that came about because the Disney executive called me and he said, I woke up with this title in my head. I have no idea what the movie is. Come pitch me the movie. The title is Phantom of the Megaplex. Pitch me the movie.
What a title to wake up to in your head.
Yeah. So I do what I'm told. So,
Yeah.
for the story, I went and pitched it. Love it. Go write that. It's our Halloween movie. So we've got to have it by this date. So there was always some
Okay.
kind of deadline.
Some
And
deadline.
yeah, and then there's a couple projects like True Confessions was based on a novel. And that was one that the producer brought it to me and she said, this seems like a perfect Disney Channel movie. I know they like you. Would you go in with me? And when we went in, they said, we're going to be very honest with you. Two other teams of writers have brought us this project and we passed. But what's your take on it? And I told them, and they said, we know you, we trust you, we like this take, we're making the movie. But we have a very tight window because we want Shia LaBeouf in it, and he's doing Even Stevens at the time. So they said,
Mm.
here's the month hiatus he's got from Even Stevens. We have to shoot by this date. can you get it done? And it was like, you'll have it.
You'll
So
have it, a machine.
yeah,
And we've seen, so in your credits,
yeah.
some things you're credited, of course, as a writer. And then in other areas, they'll call it teleplay. Can you explain to our listeners what the difference is between those two?
Yeah, all of the credits kind of have secret code to them. One of the other things that goes along with that is if you see writers with an ampersand, where it's like by Stu Krieger and
Mhm.
Joe Smith, but it's an ampersand, it means we work together as a team. If it says by Stu Krieger and AND Joe Smith, it means we never even met, usually. And
Oh,
Oh,
like, so a really good example was with Smart House. William Hudson's the other credited writer. He had initiated the project, which I'm 99% sure was also based on a book. And he got it set up at Disney Channel. He did a couple drafts, and that was the one that I mentioned where they said the basic premise, the basic structure, everything about the house we really like. We don't feel like it has the emotional core yet. That's something you're really good at. Can you look at it? And so everything about making Pat the surrogate mother in terms of him watching TV I mean, her watching TV to learn how a mom's supposed to behave, kind of the arc of Ben being afraid that his mom was being replaced by Sarah and Pat, all of those things were stuff that I brought to it. And then the Writers Guild does an arbitration process to decide who ultimately gets screen credit. And so in a case like that, if you're a second writer or later, you have to contribute 50% or more of the final script that gets shot.
got it.
And so
okay.
the fact that we have the A&D credit means he wrote the original draft, several drafts actually, and then I came on and got enough done that it's 50% or more and got the green light to get the movie made. So that's the end. And then teleplay is often like with True Confessions because it was based on a novel. The novel existed, so that's the source material. And then I wrote the teleplay, which is the adaptation of it, as opposed to with the Xenon movies, even though it was based on a kid's book, like the whole creation of the universe was stuff I did. So I believe that's one where I just have written by credit.
Hmm.
Okay.
So it's all about
That's fascinating.
what you contributed and ultimately what the arbitration determines, but all of it has meaning in terms of, like I said, just written by teleplay or the
Hmm.
and or the
Or
ampersand.
how it's seen.
Yeah,
That's so interesting. I would have never picked up on that.
yeah,
No.
Seeing the difference, yeah. And that
yeah,
had to have been so fun to be able to contribute that portion to something like Xenon, for example, that had a story, but you get to do the fun parts and make the little lingo and the
yeah.
technology. That had to have been a blast.
Yeah, and with the Xenon in particular, that was a really thin kids picture book. And so basically the elements that survived were she was a kid on the space station with a crush on a rock star named Protozoa and had a best friend Nebula. Those were the things that were in the book. But
Uh-huh.
everything about the adventure, the Lutz and Wyndham, the whole threat to the space station, all of that was stuff that I invented. And as you mentioned, all of the language and all of it's a problem major, it's a problem
It's so
minor,
Yeah,
fun.
it's so fun.
Cetus Lapidus, all of the above. That was me.
Cetus Lapidus.
It's
That's an iconic
iconic.
thing.
The amount of times we'll like text each other that.
The Cetus Lapidus.
Well, and of course, my son, who was probably 11 at the time, he would watch dailies with me when they would send down the dailies to review, and he would watch with me. He's now a filmmaker, no
Oh,
surprise.
cool.
But he would watch with me, and he'd go, the first time, Dad, did they just say seize the penis?
Oh no. Little different, little
And it's like,
different.
no, dude, they did not.
This is Disney Channel. They definitely did not.
But good looking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instant feedback, though. You can hear how things are coming across from your kid.
And
Yeah.
the perfect age for it.
This is a story I love to tell because again, the continuity of the fact that he is now a filmmaker. He was 5 years old, and I was doing Troll in Central Park with Don Bluth, and Don's studio at the time was in Ireland. And so again, back to the, dinosaur days of technology, Don would fax me drawings of all the characters, and I had a big cork wall in my office, and I would put the drawings up and work from that and stuff back and forth to him in Ireland and me in LA. And Gnorga is the villain in Troll in Central Park, the Troll Queen. And the picture of her comes, I put it up on my board. My 5-year-old walks in and he goes, "That's not right." And I
Oh
said,
my
"What?"
gosh.
And he goes, Isn't she the bad queen?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, she doesn't like anything pretty. That's why Stanley can't stay and get sent to Central Park. She doesn't like pretty things. And she's got a jewel on her crown. She wouldn't have a jewel.
Oh my
She had,
gosh.
she had
Wow.
something scary like a spider. So, so I called Don and I go, hey, Don, I have some feedback for you.
Yeah.
My
5-year-old
5-year-old
feedback.
says,
Hmm.
my 5-year-old says you didn't do Gnorgus Turban correctly. And literally 15 minutes later, a thing comes through the fax machine. I pick it up. She's got her turban wrapped and held together by a spider brooch kind of thing.
That's so
Wow.
cool.
And that's what's in the movie.
Yes, which
Well,
by the way, I just have to say it's one of my favorites. We watched A Troll in Central Park so many times as kids. It's
Well,
so
okay.
fantastic.
One other fun fact for you. The kids in the movie are Gus and Rosie.
Hmm.
My children are Gus and Rosie.
aw.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. And
So,
Gus had a lot of input as well. He's in the
yeah.
movie and he helped sculpt the movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have to show you this is because it's one of my prized possessions. At the end of the film, of the making of the film, the animators gave me this
Oh, that's so
That's so
sweet.
cute.
three-dimensional model of Gus and Rosie that they make a bunch of these when they're animating so that they can see a character from all different angles and know
Hmm.
what they would look like. And it's carved on the
Aw.
bottom from the producer and given to me on Father's Day that year they finished. So
That's
Oh my God, that's
adorable.
yeah,
amazing. Oh,
yeah,
I love that it's your kids. That makes it even more
It really
special.
does.
yeah. So Alice got Alice in Wonderland. They got Troll in Central Park.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
It's honestly one of the best. We
Yep.
love that movie. They
Thank you.
should be
Thank you.
proud of that.
How did you first get connected with Don Bluth? Because obviously, like Troll in Central Park, but also Land Before Time, one of our favorite movies as well. How did
Hmm.
you guys first get connected?
Actually, through Spielberg. So, kind of what that evolution was, and it's another one of the lessons that I was passing on all the time to my students because writers get typecast as quickly as actors do in Hollywood. And so the first couple things that I did, starting with Satan's Cheerleaders, um,
Bring it back around.
yeah, were like kind of, I was 24 years old when my first movie got made. So I was writing a lot of teen angst and young adult coming of age kind of stories and really started to realize, like I said, that writers get typecast pretty quickly. So I wanted to do something that showed another side of me. And I wrote a very, very autobiographical, 4 generations of a family coming together for the grandparents' 60th wedding anniversary and all the family shit hitting the fan, basically.
Hmm.
But a wacky multi-generational comedy. And the movie never got made, but it was the most important thing I ever wrote. And part of it was because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the blacklist that currently
Oh,
exists.
Hmm.
yeah.
But the version of Franklin Leonard's Blacklist in my day was American Film Magazine used to do the 10 best unproduced scripts in Hollywood every year. And they would poll agents and managers and studio executives and development people and say, what's your favorite script you read this year that hasn't yet been made? And
Hmm.
that multi-generational script, Kinfolk, made it to that top 10 list. And I was getting all kinds of meetings with producers and studios and people that wanted to meet me based on that script. And one of the people who read it was Spielberg. And he was doing Amazing Stories, his first foray into television. And the producers reached out and said, Stephen likes you as a writer. We're looking for writers for this. Are you interested in working on it? And the answer is yes.
I was gonna say, who would
Yeah,
say
yeah,
no to
The
yeah.
answer is
that?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got involved in Amazing Stories. Ultimately, over the 2 seasons, I ended up writing 4 episodes of that. And we were somewhere in the second season, and Steven's head of development, Deborah Newmeyer, came to me and said, "We want to talk to you about something else. Steven and George Lucas have had this idea for a while about an animated dinosaur movie. Steven and I were talking. We think you've become a better writer since you become a dad. Do you want to write this for us?" Again, you know the answer.
Uh-huh.
Big
Did
yes.
not even have to think
Easy
about it.
No,
yes.
it doesn't
Yeah.
start with how much am I going to get paid. It doesn't start with how much time I have. It starts with yes.
Even starts with
Yes.
yes.
Yes, I'll pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the time when I was brought on board, they had already received a draft that they didn't like. And so I said to them, if you don't mind, I'd rather not read that and have all this other stuff in my head. Just tell me what you do like. Tell me what the vision of what they're seeing is. And I want to start from scratch without that other script in my head. And
Mm.
they said, great. And so basically what I inherited was this big folder of scraps of paper that both Stephen and George had just scribbled ideas on and stuffed in them. And
Wow.
so it was kind of like take these, like put the puzzle together, take these
Uh-huh.
pieces
Hmm.
and make it into a story. And that's back to the cork wall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'd have to somehow lay that out so you
Yeah,
could try to piece it together.
exactly. And it was literally like on a napkin, dinosaurs walk by a burning volcano. It was just things like that.
Just things that popped in their heads.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Wow.
putting it all together and going back and pitching, my take on it. And that's what we did. So that Don was already attached at that point.
Got it.
They had a three-picture deal between Spielberg and Don Bluth. American Tail was the first of the three.
Hmm.
Land Before Time was the second. And then I can't say too much or I'll be killed.
Okay. Okay.
But
We don't want that.
Where we hear nothing.
there were creative differences that did not allow the third picture to happen. So by
Got
the end
it.
of Land Before
Got it.
Time, there was a couple of weeks where I was the unwitting conduit where I would go to a meeting with John. He would give me notes. He would say, "Go tell Stephen that blah, 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 blah." I'd go back to Stephen and go, "Don said to tell you blah, 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 blah."
Oh my gosh.
And he
Oh
would go,
no.
"Okay, well, you can go back and tell Don." Blah, blah. I had to do that for a little bit of time.
Like divorced parents.
Seriously.
A little bit.
You're just hearing from you're just the messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pleading not to be shot in the crossfire, but
Yes.
Mhm.
ultimately it all worked out and they made up enough to have, be fine together, but just decided
Yeah.
that they should probably not do the third picture.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned that you had done a couple movies for Disney before the DComs,
Yeah.
and those are, of course, The Parent Trap 2 and Freaky Friday with Shelley Long, which I loved that one growing up. Were you a fan of like both of the original series of Freaky Friday and Parent Trap?
The Parent Trap situation, there's not even words to express. I was so fanatically in love with Haley Mills when I was 11 and 12 years old that was the era when all the movie magazines were basically Beatles and the Teen Idol thing.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I would go to all of my female friends and like, when you're done with that magazine, can I have it? And rip out the Haley pages. And literally, there was a point in my life where my bedroom over my bed was just wallpapered with pictures of Haley Mills from top to bottom,
Oh.
wallpapered. So I heard they were doing a sequel with Haley as the adult, and I went to my agent and I said, "Call Disney and tell them I will pay them money if I can write this movie. You
Yeah.
don't have to pay me. I need to be the person to write this movie.
Uh-huh.
It's in the stars." So my agent calls back and he says, "I talked to them. There's already a writer on it. Sorry, I tried. Not going to happen, buddy. Peace be with you." So my wife and I were in Hawaii on vacation. The phone rang at 5:30 in the morning. And I said, "Yeah, it was my agent." I go, "What's up?" And he goes, and first of all, I said, "It's 5:30 in the morning here." And he goes, "Oh, shit, I thought the time difference went the other way. I'm sorry." But
Well,
anyway,
now I'm up.
yeah. He said, but anyway, Disney got the script. They don't like it at all, and they have a problem because Haley Mills is doing a play on Broadway in January. Here's the window where they have to shoot in these. I think it's 4 weeks shoot. They have to shoot in these 4 weeks because they're going to lose her, and then the whole project goes away. If you can be back to pitch it to them on Monday, I got you a meeting.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I'll leave now if I have.
Yeah,
to.
we'll give me the next flight.
I'll find a flight.
Yeah. So got the meeting, went in. They hired me in the room and said, "You have 3 weeks to write the script. Go." And I said, "I could write it tonight. I mean, this is,
Yeah, you've probably already
You've been
thinking
waiting
about
for
it.
this.
completely.
Yeah.
This is so got it in, and this is the one of the things that I have deep regrets about. Somewhere there was a script that came back from Michael Eisner that said, "Great draft, green light, let's go." And it was written on the cover page, and I had it, and I lost it somewhere.
shoot.
along the way.
Oh no.
But that would have been a good thing to still have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Would
I
have
got the
been front and
memory and
center.
it happened. So then the next iteration was 3 weeks, get the script in, do some minor rewrites. They were shooting in Tampa, and I was on a plane flying to location, going to meet Haley Mills, and going, "Okay, now what if I walk in and she's just a nightmare? Some
Oh,
big diva actress and
yeah.
all of my dreams and all of my childhood."
Like a don't meet your
Shattered.
heroes
Don't
thing.
meet your hero. That's
Yeah,
exactly
completely.
right.
Yeah, so I walk in and I'm sitting there and I see her come in and my heart's going like bang, bang, bang,
I'm
bang.
sure.
And she still looks fabulous. And I'm like, this is not happening. And she looks around the room and she goes, "Which one's Stu?" And I said, here. And she goes, darling, come here. I need a hug. I love you.
Oh,
I was like,
good.
we're going to be fine.
Oh,
That was in 1986. We are still very dear friends. I just got an email from her about 2 weeks ago. Whenever we're in England or she's here, we get together.
that's so cool.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
there are moments where I go, I have no idea how this is my life. I was,
Hmm.
the little kid in Rochester with my wallpaper Haley Mills, and
With
then
her.
yeah, and it's never like I was saying about walking on a set. If I come in the morning and turn on my computer and there's an email from Haley Mills with her, it's like, what?
It still hits you.
Yeah, but no, it's not really.
Oh,
That is the manifesting we all need to do in
we all
life.
need.
And-
We need to
and-
go back to putting things on our walls.
And this is like the dearest indication of who she is as a human being. As I mentioned, we're in Mandeville Canyon in Brentwood. So when the fires were going on in
Oh.
January, they got right to the end of our street, literally,
Mm.
and they were able to be beaten back. And so we were evacuated for 12 days, and we were in the, house that we were staying in while we were evacuated. And my phone rings, and I see a London area code, and it's like, I don't know anybody in London. It's Haley calling, darling, I'm watching the fires. Are you guys okay?
Aw.
Oh,
And it's like, what?
it's a friendship.
Yeah. So that happened. So that's your answer to the Parent Trap.
Yeah. That's such a
Such a
cool
good
story.
answer.
Oh my
And then-
gosh, it's just a dream.
And then with Freaky Friday, the crazy thing was freaky. One of the things, again, that I've always mentioned to my students is I usually, when I'm writing something from scratch like that, I will cast it in my head, mostly because if I have a consistent voice, then that voice makes it to the page. So even if I know it's an actor that's never going to do it, if I'm thinking this is a Clooney type of character and I'm hearing George's voice, it becomes a really consistent character. For Freaky Friday, I had Shelley Long's picture taped to my computer while I was writing. Never said anything to the producers, never said anything to anybody. And the producer called me and said, hey, guess who wants to do the part? And I went, yeah. I was like,
My God.
you know.
This is really working for you. This
Yeah.
taping photos
Right?
around.
Yeah, we're
It's
bringing it
really your
back.
thing.
Yeah.
You should keep up with that.
Yes.
So that was how that happened. And then Alan Rosenberg, who ended up playing the male lead, was somebody also, but I did mention to the
Okay.
producers and said, has anybody thought about Alan Rosenberg? And he ended up in the movie as well. So
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Does it affect your writing? Does it change anything whenever you know that someone is already cast? Because with Cowbells, Ali and AJ, you knew were
Yeah.
already attached to the film. Does that change how you write it whenever you already know who's going to be in it?
yeah, it's actually really, really helpful. And that was, like I said, that was the case with Shia with True Confessions. It was the case with Haley with the Parent Trap sequel. It's great because then that voice is already there.
Sure.
And even like with AJ and Ali, who I didn't know as well, I just went back and watched some of their stuff and seeing the interaction, seeing the interplay, seeing the cadence, all that's really helpful. And then I think, part of the thing with Shelley Long is I think she was able to hear herself in that part when she read it in a way that made sense. So I think there is, that it goes both ways, that
Sure.
if you're hearing that voice, then it's a voice that's consistent and comfortable for the actor when they receive it also.
Hmm.
So it just makes everything smoother and takes out a couple of the steps that,
Hey, we'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what about if a character is recast? Does that affect it? Because if it's a new actor coming in, it literally is a different voice. Or do you just try to keep on what you already wrote for the original script?
Yeah, because a really good case of that was the third movie, Xenon, that, it was a different protozoa.
Hmm.
And he did a really great job of, it wasn't an impersonation of what Philip did, but he really got the essence of the character in a way that didn't feel terribly disconcerting.
Hmm.
And the thing that always amused me with those movies was Disney was notoriously cheap. And so the sequel and the third movie both shot on location, one in, as I mentioned, New Zealand, the other in South Africa. And they just cast the parents locally so that they didn't have to put up, bring actors from the States and put them up and do all the rest of it. So in the Xenon movies, the parents are always changing, but it's just like, yeah, you're around, you'll do. Come be
Yeah.
the pup.
Yeah. The same hair color, that'll work.
Yeah, and sometimes not even. The three, there's no connection,
Yeah.
Yeah. As a kid, I don't think I ever paid attention to that
No.
growing up watching it. Now,
We're
I
just
just
so hooked on Xenon.
rewatching them
Yeah.
as an adult now, of course, you notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're just
It's like, you're cheap, your hair will do.
It's
Oh my God,
fine.
that's so
It's
funny.
fine.
Show business.
Completely.
So would you get to go whenever they filmed like in New Zealand? Did you get to go to New Zealand or were you
No,
just
of
doing
course,
stuff from
because
here?
yeah, it was really funny because like Proof Point shot in Salt Lake City, and I
Okay.
did get to go there. True Confessions shot in Toronto, and I went there, and also the Phantom of the Megaplex was there. Xenon was in Vancouver. So anything that was like a domestic flight in Canada, I
They'd
could do.
cover.
If it was overseas, they're like, "You're on your own, buddy." You know? So, and with a couple of those, they just did the table reads and stuff here before they ever went over to the location. So,
Got it.
with the,
Oh,
yeah, with the sequel, we did the table read at the studio, and then they took off.
Okay. So at least you
budget,
still got to like
budget,
hear it
budget.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it depended on where the location was and where their budget was, whether I was there or not.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Gonna say even movies like True Confessions, for example, which is another one of our favorites. That was a much more kind of serious topic for DCOMs. It was
yeah.
definitely different. I think people even talk about it today. And that one was based off of a book. But was the process any different? Was the machine just still rolling and they kind of expected the same things from their movies? Or was it more of a serious topic where there are different expectations for that movie?
I think it was more, I mean, they were on board for this as well, but for me, it was really about honoring what we were doing. So, the producer and I went and spent a day at a home for people with the disabilities that Shia had
Oh, cool.
and, watched them, talk to them, sat, I mean, we were there for a full day and just moving around and talking to different folks and talking to some of the rehab folks that were working with them and just really wanting to understand the experience and wanting to be true to it and authentic and fair.
Mm-hmm.
That was all really important to me, and they were very support. The channel was very supportive of that. And
That's
one of the
awesome.
things that's kind of been very rewarding to me in a way that, I've done several of these type of interviews, and one of the things that was really funny in the first couple was they would ask me like really, really specific minutia about some of the DCOMs. And I said, I'm not Norma Desmond sitting home watching my movies over and over again. You
Like,
know,
I don't remember.
yeah, I said I gotta apologize. I haven't seen it in 20 years. I have no idea what you're asking me
Yeah.
about
Uh-huh.
now.
Oh,
And so then I kind of felt a responsibility to go back and watch them in a way that I had not literally in 20 years with some of them.
Sure.
And with both True Confessions and Smart House, one of the things I was really surprised by and proud of was with the emotional moments, we went there.
Yeah.
And
hmm
in Smart House, it's the moment when Ben's being a brat with Sarah and his father tells him to leave the table, and then he goes upstairs to have the confrontation about why are you acting like this, and I'm afraid you're going to replace mom, and then the father whips around and he goes, "You're not the only one who lost someone."
Yeah.
And they had
hmm
that moment, and I went, "Damn, kid, you wrote that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
But also surprised that Disney kind of let that stand, and and was not afraid of some of those more real and heartfelt moments, and so that's very rewarding for me in retrospect. And you know, one of the things of the only reason I am on social media was when my novel Raft was being published in 2023, the publisher said, it's an adult comedy, family comedy, and they said, we really feel like the kids who grew up on your movies are now the young adults that are the right audience for this book, but you have to find a way to reach them, and social media is the natural avenue. And I went like,
hmm Trying to stay away
I
as
will
long as
not
Absolutely
we
have,
can.
not.
yeah, I will not do that. And they said, well, there's a way that you can curate your career without being, look what I ate for lunch, look where I am
Yeah.
today, here all the stuff that I don't like. And so I hired a former student of mine who he was about to graduate and looking for a job, and I was looking for an assistant. And 3 years later, he's still working for me.
Aw.
But he kind of like he calls me up and goes, "I need you to shoot this. Just say this. I'll edit that."
Yeah.
Just tells me what to do and I do it. And
It's
he's been
perfect.
amazing. And as of this morning, between TikTok and Instagram, we have 109,000 followers.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
But part of that, the whole reason I bring it up is one of the kind of perverse aspects of show business that folks don't talk about is when you are in it, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, you are never a success because it's all about what's next. What are you working on now? What happened to that thing? Wait, I thought Kinfolk got optioned. How come it's not getting made? It's always about that. And it really, really wasn't until I started teaching that I had any sense of the impact of my work. And, because social media is notoriously like Haterville, I've been so amazed by the kindness of the comments that I've gotten and the number of, dude, you're a legend. You wrote my childhood. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. This was, this movie was the first time I ever saw that reflected on screen, and it meant so much to me because of that. And then I do get so you killed Littlefoot's mom. You owe me for my therapy bill.
Oh my God.
Two sides to it.
Yeah,
Two
I do get
sides.
that.
There's a
But
little bit of trauma, it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah. So, thank you, sir. You are responsible for all of my childhood trauma. I get a lot of that.
Mhm.
But I'm okay to own it. I'm good.
Well, you're
Oh.
also really good at your social media because you're like real and you're telling stories that necessarily we wouldn't hear. Like we were just, going through your Instagram and like sharing the story about Rugrats, how you got fired from writing
Would have
that
had no
movie.
idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
seeing you rank your top 5 favorite Disney Channel movies that you've written. Like it's just so fun to see you relive the work that you've done.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that very much. And it's also, I mean, when I started teaching, one of my personal kind of mantra mandate things was I'm not doing anybody any favors if I'm not being honest about
Yeah.
all of the highs and all of the lows and everything in between. Because,
Yeah.
Mm.
especially with the students, it's about if you can't navigate this, if you can't be, the highs are incredibly high, but then they're going to find a new way to break your heart every month. I can
Sure.
guarantee it,
Mhm.
and it might now in retrospect look like it was all sunshine and autographs, but let me tell you, and one of the things we did at UC Riverside that was an event I co-created with a fellow faculty person was she and I were talking one day and we were saying, when the students look at our resumes and they meet us in person, it's all about the successes. And we never talk about, the setbacks and the pitfalls and the failures along the way. So we initiated something that's now become an annual event. We just did it for the 6th year this past fall called The Audacity of Failure. And we have 5 or 6 faculty and staff. And this year we actually got the chancellor of the university came and participated as well. And everybody's got to tell a 10-minute, very specific anecdote about something that was a failure, a setback, an unexpected challenge, a hurdle. How did you navigate it? How did you negotiate it? How did you move on from it? What did you learn from it? And the first night that we did it, like I said, it was 5 faculty and staff, and the whole audience was crying by the end of it.
Oh no.
Oh my
I
God.
bet.
But it was like, this is so helpful to hear
Yeah.
for exactly the reason we proposed it. We're so used to just hearing this success and this success and this success, but these are all,
Everyone has a story.
yeah.
Yeah. In this day and age, stories are just more accessible. That is one thing, I guess, about social media, but you can hear from people more, like we're saying with the videos that you're making. We would just watch movies and then never have any connection to it other than rewatching and rewatching. That was how
Right.
we connected. So
Right.
it's so cool for you with your students, even just us right here, to have these opportunities to hear from the people that were on the ground floor creating these characters, creating these movies that were in our 30s and we're still talking about.
And like I said, and I do feel the responsibility that goes with that then is here's the good news, here's the bad news.
Share both sides. Yeah.
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 It makes it more interesting to us.
Good.
And are any of the characters that you said obviously your kids were into Troll in Central Park, but any
Yeah.
of the other ones, did you base them off of people that you knew in real life?
Yeah, and this is a really, really wonderful human, insight into the human psyche. Is any time that I've had like a villain or a bully or any kind of quasi-negative character based on somebody, they never ever recognize themselves in it. And when I've had characters that are positive, like I did a mini series called A Year in the Life, and there was a character very, very closely based on a dear friend who's still a very dear friend. And it's a multi-generational story as well. And when that aired, she said, "Oh, Lindley was absolutely my favorite character." And I never said, "Well, duh, she was."
You.
But that was the character she picked out, and she was my favorite in the whole thing. I loved her, and I was like,
Oh,
there you go.
yeah.
That checks out.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. And then
yeah.
the other really fun thing you get to do is there was one of the episodes of Amazing Stories that I did that Mark Hamill starred in, but every single person in that episode was named after somebody I went to high school with.
Oh,
And-
really?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fun.
and so that was on Sunday nights, and the Monday morning after it aired, the local Rochester Democrat and Chronicle newspaper called me, and they said, "Did you write the episode of Amazing Stories last night? Because a bunch of people are calling in saying it had to be you because everybody was named for.
Because we were all in math class together.
Exactly. And I went, yeah, this guy. Uh, but that was really fun. It was literally every single, the teachers were teachers that I went with, all the kids were kids I went to high school with, but every in the episode was named after somebody I grew up with.
Make it
That's so
fun. Give
cool.
your brain a
Yeah.
break. You already have these names logged.
Honestly,
Exactly. Yeah.
is it fun for you to realize like a lot of the technology like from Xenon and Smart House have kind of like come true as we've progressed? Like I remember as a kid watching Xenon, I thought it would be the coolest thing in the world to be able to video chat with a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And now that's obviously real.
just-
But what is that like to like see, your vision like come to actual reality?
Well, it's really been hilarious because I have done at least 4 or 5 podcasts and at least 7 or 8 magazine interviews that are tech based. Like,
Mhm.
dude, you're Nostradamus,
Oh.
between Smart House and Xenon, this. And I don't know if you saw it, but one of the videos we did recently were me walking around with the technology, version of what's in the movies. And that was another thing that Paul, my assistant, came up with. He said, we got to do the mix and match with the technology from, the movies. And I said, 2 things. First of all, a lot of it was based on research I did. And so before the first Xenon, I went and spent 2 days at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena and was talking to the scientists there. What are you working on? How do you see this evolving? How the rest of it? And then a lot of it was just going backwards to go forward. And so one of the things with both Xenon and Smart House is I thought often science fiction, well, even if it's a short time period, they'll do these gigantic leaps that suddenly everybody's got a jetpack and flying cars, tinfoil outfits and all the rest of it.
Uh-huh.
But my starting point was Xenon is 50 years in the future. In 1999, it was 20, whatever, my math's not that good.
Yeah.
2049. I think that's where we ended up. So I went backwards 50 years, and it's like, you know what? Men were still wearing suits to work. Women were predominantly wearing dresses. The cars are sleeker, but they're not flying. And so now make a similar leap forward. And so part of it was like, computers started when a computer filled up a whole room. Then it became a desktop. Well, the next thing is going to be something fully portable.
Yeah.
So again, I wasn't like, I'm a genius. I know. It's sort of like the extrapolation of if we're here, where we're going to be by then.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a lot of the combination of the research and then just for me, logic of
Sure.
if we're here, that's where we'll be. But yes, it's been really fun. And especially, like I said, how many tech magazines in particular have reached out and go, dude. And it's
You
like,
were onto
called
something.
settle down, because then they want, like, where are we going to be in the next few? It's like, leave me alone. I don't know.
You're like, hold on, this is too much.
Yeah.
I was writing a Disney Channel movie.
Exactly.
Thought it sounded cool.
Exactly.
And you obviously showed us you have your little Gus and Rosie, but did you ever get to keep anything from any of the sets that you worked on, or anything that maybe you thought of that they obviously made real?
Yeah, it's I can't get it down, but right above me is the energy ball from Poof Point.
Oh,
It kind of looks,
cool.
it's the thing that was flying around that kind of looks like a bomb.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the thing that's so great, I always have to think like, who am I going to get arrested? An anonymous friend of mine happened to be working in the Disney Channel and called and said, "There's a prop closet that nobody pays attention to, and I saw the energy ball in there. Do you want me to jack it for you?"
Get in there.
You deserve it.
So that's in the office above me. What else do I have? So there's a drawing on that wall that is the very first rendering that the production designer did of the Xenon classroom with the holographic teacher and all of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh. Yep.
So I have the colored pencil drawing of that they gave me. Down the hall, there's the logo from Smart House that was on the walls of everything with the entrance to Pat's Closet. I have that logo.
Oh, cool.
Anything I could kind of
Anything you could
Yeah.
grab.
I'd be the
Yeah.
same way.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of technology, it's probably for the best that the Poof Point hasn't come real.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
one we'll
That's
hold
the
off
one we
on.
can leave. We can leave behind.
We'll leave.
That's all good. Absolutely.
And then we know that there were originally talks of a Xenon like series, another follow-up. Were there ever discussions for any of your other DComs for like a sequel or series that never made it?
No, what was interesting with the evolution of Xenon was the sequel happened because the first one was a huge hit. Then the third one was designed to be a feature film. And so, like they did the Lizzie McGuire movie, and there was,
Yeah.
I forget what, if they did an Even Stevens feature. There was a couple that ended up theatrical releases. And the third Xenon movie was supposed to be that. And it was a joint production between the Disney Channel and at that point it was Hollywood Pictures, which was a division of Disney Studios. And long story short, basically, ultimately, the executives got in a fight about who has the buck stops here power. And so the channel was, this is our property. We developed it. We've already made two successful movies. We're the buck stops here people in the studios, but we're the movie people. We know movies. We're the buck stops here people. And they couldn't agree, and it became a thing. And Disney Channel finally said, I'm taking my ball and going home. We're just going to make it as a third decom. Good luck to you guys. The funny thing is, if you see that movie, it's a Disney Channel movie on a feature, I mean, a feature film on a Disney Channel budget.
Oh.
So there's a lot of it that looks so cheesy,
Oh.
cut right, and it's because it was written to be a feature film with a feature film budget.
Uh-huh.
Basically, I mean, I did a tiny little tweak to it, but not a whole lot of rewriting. And that was one when I first saw the dailies and stuff. It was like, you guys really?
Oh no.
Like, look away.
You know, so it doesn't quite look as good as the first two did, but that was exactly why, because it was initially designed to be a feature.
Hmm.
That was a little disappointing. And then with the series, as I said in one of the Instagram posts, ultimately what kiboshed it, we actually got picked up. I got the call, we're going to series. We've got this many episodes. You're the head writer and executive producer, along with the producers of the film. We had pitched a premise that they went for, which was basically, and again, this was a budgetary thing, but it was Xenon being sent down to Earth to work at a space camp, training the kids that were going to be the next generation kids in space. And part of that design was we could do a lot more being grounded than have to be confined, that every episode took place only on the space station. So that I got that call on Thursday. On Friday, I got the call, like, remember that series you had last night? We don't have that anymore.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And the reason was, again, because Disney was thrifty, we'll say. They did not put their actors under a holding deal, which normally would mean we've got first right of refusal. You can't sign another contract until you come to us first.
Got
And
it.
they did not do that with Kirsten. And that Thursday night when they had called me, they forgot to call her, and she signed a contract with General Hospital
That night.
where she still, yes,
Wow.
where she still is to this day, might I add.
Wow.
Hmm.
But so they said, she's so identifiable as the part, and she's so great in the part. We don't want to recast. We don't want to do the series without her. We just feel like that would be a mistake.
Oh my
Which is
gosh,
fair.
timing.
That's crazy, the timing of that.
Yeah. And I don't know, this only came to me again. Everybody was sending me the social media clips of it, but this year on General Hospital, her character's daughter went as Xenon for Halloween.
No
Wait,
way.
that's so cute.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I've got to
hadn't
see
either.
that.
So there's clips of her character with her daughter, and the daughter's dressed as Xenon for Halloween.
Oh, that's
That's
so
so
cool.
cool.
I love that they did that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I feel like that, I mean, it's such a good Halloween costume, and I feel like it's one that will continue because so many people are rewatching and watching for the first time now that Disney Plus is a thing.
Hmm.
And there's probably like brand new audiences every day discovering your work.
Well, this was the most fun I've had in a very, very long time, but sometime, must have been in May, I'm pretty sure. There's a theater space in North Hollywood that is 90s nostalgia based, and they do stand up and they do music and they do screenings and they do all kinds of things. And the woman who owns the space is a friend of my son's, and she called and she said, we're going to be screening Xenon. Is there any way you would ever come and do a Q&A at the end of it? And I said, yeah, I'll come for the whole thing. Really fun. So it's a fairly, confined space in a storefront in North Hollywood. It was packed, and it
Aw.
was packed with geeks. Going on, like a couple Xenon t-shirts, a couple Land Before Time t-shirts, people with their Land Before Time VHS copies that they wanted me to sign.
Aw.
Thing. But the thing that was so fun when they were screening the movie, they were yelling, they knew the lines. Like when Xenon makes Goo Goo Eyes at Greg, they're all like, "Oh no, you didn't, girl!"
That's so fun.
And then at the end of it, they all knew the lyrics to Zoom, 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 and they were all singing along and
Oh,
laughing.
it's so
It's
fun.
iconic.
Yeah, I was like, this is a fun night. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that sounds like I wish I knew that that was a thing.
I
yeah, and
know.
now she's threatening to do it again with Smart House sometime coming down the road. So
Okay, well, if that happens, we'll be
Would
there.
love to be there. I know.
Yeah.
Well, Stu, we are right there on the bandwagon with all these people that you're seeing leaving you these messages and that are coming. Truly, we can't thank you enough. So much
Yeah.
of what you've done has impacted all of us. As I said, we're still here talking about it.
Mhm.
And we all, as little kids, this would be a dream that we didn't even know would come true. So thank you so much for
Yes.
talking
and
with us
I
and all
so
your
appreciate
stories.
it and appreciate the great research. So the questions were terrific.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
I know we know he gets asked a lot of similar stuff, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't
All
help
good.
but ask a few of those things. It's the fangirls in us.
You have
Absolutely.
truly written some of the greatest movies
Yeah.
of our childhood that we have just loved
Yeah.
since we were little kids up until
Yeah.
now.
Well, I very much
Yeah.
appreciate it and appreciate you reaching out.
Thank you
Oh,
so
thank you for your
much.
time. Thank you for
Absolutely.
doing this.
All righty, take care.
Bye. Have a great
Okay,
day.
bye.
All righty, bye.